Welcome to IVF This, episode 191, IVF and Emotional Perfectionism.
Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go.
Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you're all doing so well today. This episode took me a little while to put together, which I think is hilarious because one of the reasons that it took me a while was because I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted to make sure that I got all of my thoughts out and all of my things out. So I think it's pretty ironic that this episode is around emotional perfectionism because it's very on brand for what we're doing. So before I get started on this episode, I want to ask, it would mean a great deal to me if whatever podcasting platform you are hearing this on, Audible, Spotify, Apple, I know to varying degrees, like Apple and Audible, you can rate and review it. Reviews, I would be so grateful to anyone who would be willing to rate and review, or just rate if that's your only option. This podcast, that helps keep the episodes relevant, keeps it findable or locatable, whatever word you want to use for people who are searching IVF podcasts. So if anyone I think it takes like 3 to 5 minutes. If you could do that for me, I would just genuinely appreciate it. I want to make sure that this gets as much traction as possible. We want to be out here supporting our fellow IVFers. And I haven't, I think it's been a couple of years since I directly asked for some ratings and reviews. So if you think about it, if you want to, could do me a solid and put on some ratings and reviews on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to this on. Now, to get to emotional perfectionism. It is the belief that if we just get our emotional response, quote unquote, right, if we could feel the right things, I guess, and avoid the wrong ones, maybe the rest of our journey will get easier. Or maybe we will feel more in control. Or maybe we would just look at how we're handling IVF like we're handling it well. Okay. And I just want to say this from the very beginning. Emotional perfectionism is one of the most invisible, pervasive, and punishing forms of perfectionism that I see within the IVF community. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you may remember an early episode that I did on perfectionism, how it's not about your output, but about your internal relationship with yourself. So today we're zooming on a very specific flavor of that, the pressure to manage your emotions perfectly. All right, let's dig in. Emotional perfectionism starts with a belief a lot of us don't even realize we hold, that there are good emotions and bad emotions, that some emotions are acceptable to feel and show, and others should be punished, put down, hidden, minimized, or quote unquote fixed. Joy, hope, gratitude, absolutely. Those are the good ones, right? Sadness, jealousy, fear, anger, grief, those get labeled as bad, quote unquote bad, unproductive, unhelpful, or inconvenient. So when the bad ones show up, and infertility pretty much guarantees that they will, we end up thinking things like, I shouldn't feel this way. I should be more positive. I should be more grateful. I shouldn't be angry. I shouldn't be jealous of someone else's pregnancy. I should be stronger than this. And when this happens, we're not processing the emotion, we are suppressing it. Again, we tell ourselves things like, I should just get over this. I should just move on. I shouldn't cry again, or shouldn't cry, period. I shouldn't be scared. That voice, the one adding judgment on top of your emotions, is emotional perfectionism. And it doesn't just stop at suppression, right? It creates impossible, hear me, impossible emotional standards for yourself. I should handle this with grace. I shouldn't break down. I should stay hopeful every day. I shouldn't feel vulnerable. I should bounce back quickly. These are standards no one could meet. I mean, let's be honest. Even the most like regulated person in the entire world, emotionally regulated person, would not be able to meet these standards in the face of something as challenging and emotionally evoking like IVF, right? These standards no one can meet. Not in infertility, not in IVF, not in life, right? But emotional perfectionism tries to convince you that if you could meet this impossible standard, if you could just nail the emotional performance or experience, that you'd be okay. You'd be worthy and that you'd be doing IVF right. Emotional perfectionism comes from a deeper belief that our value is conditional. If I'm pleasant, I'm lovable. If I'm grateful, I'm worthy. If I'm positive, I'm admirable. If I'm composed, I'm quote unquote strong. Many of us were raised to make things easier for everyone around us, right? To not burden people with our feelings, to be the quote unquote good girl, the peacemaker, the emotionally contained one. And I want to take a second just to preface this. My emotional upbringing as like a heterosexual white woman is going to be very different from the emotional upbringing of other women in other cultures, other women of color. There are emotional experiences that I can display that other women cannot based on just their culture and the color of their skin. So I want to make sure that that is understood before we move any further, right? Just because if I'm talking to another white woman, we can talk about how, yeah, sometimes if we get sad or scared or something like that, we get labeled a softer version of something. Whereas a woman of color, let's say a black woman, gets angry. Well, then she is just now thrown into the bucket of an angry black woman. And there's no one's going to hear her. No one's going to pay attention. She has now become that stereotype, which she's not. She's just expressing a normal emotion in the circumstance. But I want you to see that based on your culture, based on the color of your skin, these things aren't going to equal out. Like it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison, right? Okay, back to our regular scheduled programming. So when infertility hits, the thing that is wildly unfair, wildly out of your control, and wildly emotional, the instinct is to manage it gracefully, to be a polite patient, the hopeful warrior, the strong woman. Add the chronic uncertainty of IVF to that, and emotional perfectionism goes into like overdrive, right? The brain thinks if I can't control the outcome, maybe I can control how I feel about the outcome. So you begin to police your internal world in order to feel in control of something, like anything. But here's the truth: IVF doesn't reward emotional perfectionism. It just doesn't. It's indiscriminate. It doesn't give you extra points for staying positive. It doesn't punish you for crying in your car after an appointment. Emotional perfectionism isn't making the journey smoother, it's making it lonelier. So let's talk about the harm that emotional perfectionism can cause. Because emotional perfectionism doesn't just hurt a little. No, it hurts a lot. So, one, it creates chronic psychological stress. You're not just feeling the emotion, you're fighting it. You're anxious and ashamed that you're anxious. You're sad and you're disappointed that you're sad. You're angry and you're guilty for being angry. It becomes double suffering. It damages relationships. Suppressed emotions don't disappear, they leak out sideways through irritability, through shutdown, through withdrawing from people who want to support you, through resentment because no one understands what I'm holding. Emotional perfectionism isolates you. Number three, it lowers mood and reinforces shame, which, yeah, that right there is enough, right? But when you constantly judge your emotional state, was I positive enough today? Did I handle that well enough? You reinforce that the idea that emotions are a moral performance. That leads to lower mood, heightened anxiety, and symptoms of depression. And finally, it narrows your emotional life or your emotional experience. When you try to numb quote unquote bad emotions, you also numb the good ones. You can't selectively numb. It doesn't work like that. It's like when you're trying to lose weight, you can't spot reduce fat, right? It's the same thing. You don't get to selectively numb. If you shut down grief, you dim joy. If you shut down vulnerability, you also dampen connections. If you shut down fear, you also flatten hope. And suddenly, your entire emotional world feels muted. So, emotional health isn't the absence of difficult emotions ever. It's the absence of judgment around those emotions. It's understanding that emotions aren't moral categories, they are messages. Messages like, this matters to me, this scares me, this hurts me, I want this so badly, I'm grieving something I've always hoped for. Emotional health is allowing the full spectrum, grief, joy, jealousy, hope, fear, excitement, without telling yourself you're wrong for having any of them. It's honesty, not performance. So how can we start to loosen up emotional perfectionism? I want you to notice the good versus bad emotions rule, right? Catch yourself if you are categorizing. This emotion is allowed, this emotion is not. Replace it with, this emotion makes sense. Our emotions always make sense. You might not be able to link things to specific things. Like when I'm talking to clients, a lot of times they'll say I don't know where this came from. But I can piece it together, right? Because I have that external view, right? That more objective view. So they might not make sense to you in the moment, but trust when I say your emotions make sense. Okay. When you do this, you're telling the truth of your experience instead of moralizing your internal world. Number 2, you're going to replace suppression with curiosity. When you hear yourself say, I shouldn't feel this, I want you to pause. Just pause, just a quick pause. And I want you to try, what might this emotion be trying to tell me? Curiosity opens doors. Suppression slams them shut. Number 3, I want you to lower impossible emotional standards. No, even lower. So instead of expecting yourself to be hopeful, grateful, composed, and resilient all of the time, expect yourself to be human. Human. Shift from I shouldn't feel vulnerable to vulnerability means that I care, means that I desire connection. Number 4, you're going to interrupt the consequences before the snowball. When you notice an emotion, one, that's the first step, right? Awareness. Notice the judgment that piles up on top of it. Pause and interrupt it with, nothing's gone wrong because I feel this way. If I'm angry, if I'm sad, if I'm grieving, nothing's gone wrong, right? I didn't get the outcome I wanted, but it doesn't mean anything's gone wrong for me to feel this way. This helps to prevent chronic distress, emotional shutdown, and that slide into that low mood I was talking about earlier. Number 5, practice daily emotional permission. You should hold your hand to your chest, deep breath, and say, I am allowed to feel this. This one practice dismantles emotional perfectionism at the root. I'm allowed to feel this. Number 6, embrace good enough emotional days. You don't need to feel your emotions perfectly. Nobody does. You don't need to regulate your emotions perfectly. Nobody can. And you don't need to process perfectly. Nobody will. A good enough emotional day might mean I cried and I took a walk. I was anxious and I still ate breakfast. I felt jealousy, but I didn't shame myself over it. That right there is emotional resiliency. And finally, number 7, redefining strength. Strength is not emotional composure. I'll say that one more time because it took me a really long time to understand this. Strength is not emotional composure. Strength is telling the truth about how much things hurt, letting yourself feel what you feel, asking for support, allowing tears, and being honest with yourself. Strength is honesty, not performance. So if you only take one thing from this episode, let it be this. You do not have to earn your future child through emotional perfection, through perfect emotional behavior. You are not more worthy if you stayed positive. You are not less worthy because you cried. Your emotional experience is not a report card. You are worthy because you love, because you show up, because you care, because you're human in an impossible, incomprehensible moment. That is emotional courage, not emotional perfectionism. So, my beautiful friends, as you move through your next appointment, your next cycle, or even your next Monday afternoon, I hope you allow yourself to be a little less perfect and a little more human. You don't need to perform strength. You are already strong. You don't need to curate your emotions. You just need to feel them. All right. That's what I have for you today. I hope this message hits you. I hope this resonates for you. And if it does, and you want to share that, maybe someone else you notice is experiencing emotional perfectionism, share it with them. We want to add more peace, more softness, more gentleness, more compassion to the IVF community. Okay, so share it with your friends, but I want you to take such good care of yourself. Okay, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.